Hello, everyone. Here we are for Chapter 3, Theories of Human Development, Cognitions, Morality, and Faith in the Human Experience. That is a mouthful. Anyway, I was going to tell you a secret, but I'll tell you in my next lecture. How about that? All right, let's go with theories of cognitive and intellectual development. One thing is my daughter said, I heard you talking to yourself, don't you? What are you doing? That was pretty funny. She could just hear me doing these lectures to my computer. It was a very interesting experience, but I'm trying to pretend like you guys are in front of me, so I'm still a little bit funny and a little bit not monotone. So it's an interesting experience. But Piaget, here we go. You got to know Piaget. You got to know him, everything about him, the stages of cognitive development. I would know those in and out. I would know the ages. I would know them. Okay. Piaget is still widely studied um, on his stages of development. So there's a lot of information that you'll need to know for Piaget, more than is in this text, even. So, where do we want to start? His theory begins with the process of adaptation, which is how we construct information. How do we adapt and learn in our world? And so basically his concept is that we construct knowledge by assimilating information into our brain, connecting cognitive structures, and becomes more and more sophisticated by this accommodation method. And the best way I can describe this is almost like I talk about EMDR. And our memories assimilate and encode and connect and make a narrative. So basically, this is how we're growing, right? We're assimilating in new info, pruning off what we don't need, accommodating what needs to go here or structures here, right? To become this sophisticated cognitive structure, which of course all of you are very sophisticated cognitive structures, right? So he also theorized these stages, which go from sensory motor, and sensory motor is the beginning, right, with children, so birth to 2 years. Pre-operational is 2 to 7. Concrete operational is 7 to 12, and formal operation is 12 and older. And in later chapters, we'll go into more detail. In those stages of development, we'll learn more about that. So this is just an overview, but you will need to know all of those. And again, all of this stuff is just such great review for your examination because all of this stuff is on there in either the lifespan chapter or the theory chapter. So let's go to intelligence, genetics, and age. Arthur Jensen, which I got to tell you, I don't remember any of these people from my learning. So I, it's interesting. I mean, I remember most of the people that were the theorists that we learned, but I don't know these guys. So Arthur Jensen, Richard Herrnstein, and Charles Murray. So Arthur Jensen theorized that differences in intelligence can be largely attributed to a person's genetics, while Richard Herrnstein and Charles Murray theorized that intelligence is determined by both genetic and environmental factors. I remember fluid and crystallized intelligence here, but I do not remember Arthur, Richard, and Charles. One absolutely horrible thing about Jensen here is that, and this is really important for us to talk about today or this week with everything going on with George Floyd. When that's not, obviously, this has been going on forever, and it's not just George Floyd, but this, I guess, was the catalyst for more action this week from the parts of many people. I've never seen so many white people stand up and be angry, and I'm very grateful for that. It's time, right? But look at this in our history here. Jensen, when you read the book, he claimed in his research that those with lighter skin colors had higher intelligence than those with darker skin tones, ultimately due to the inherited genetics with little due to their environment. Wow. So now you see, look at that. That was, when was this? In the 60s, right? Gosh. Bernstein and was a psychologist, and Charles Murray was a political scientist. They published a book, The Bell Curve, in 1994, Intelligence and Class Structure in American Life, which argues that a person's intelligence is determined by genetics and environment. But they also bring up the connection between race and intelligence by stating it seems highly likely to us that both genes and environment have something to do with racial differences. Yet they say that more evidence is needed in order to understand the relationship. Wow. What are your reactions to this connection between race and intelligence? I'm just wondering how you guys are feeling. Maybe you'll write me and tell me. It's horrific, isn't it? I was just like about to graduate high school. Okay, I guess I'll keep talking. So then we have intelligence and age. So we have this fluid, and this is an actual reality. We have fluid and crystallized intelligence, right? And this is cognitive psychologist Horn thought of intelligence as having two parts, fluid and crystallized. And Cattell, remember for Raymond Cattell, that's a theorist from 1905 to 1998, his theory of crystallized and fluid intelligence emerged. So crystallized intelligence is less likely to decrease with age. In fact, it can even increase with age. But fluid intelligence is what we draw upon to complete tasks, solve puzzles, etc. And that's what can decline later on. Like for instance, I play a memory game with my children, where you flip everything over in the matching game. And I used to be great at that when I was a kid, but I cannot remember where the other sheep is to save my life, or the other turkey, or there's animals on this thing. And I am the worst at this now. I mean, I used to be awesome. So my children can find those things like nobody's business. I mean, we can go 6 rounds and they'll remember where the sheep was. So there you go. There's a little example. If that makes more sense. Oh, intelligence test. We know good old Stanford and Binet, right? This is Binet and Simon, right? Binet-Simon scale. But you guys know what I'm talking about. Binet and Theodore Simon created with the first IQ test, the Binet-Simon scale in 1905. You guys just had tests and assessments. So this is probably right in your brain and remembering it. And then eventually got created in the Stanford Binet intelligence scales. Wechsler developed intelligent tests using the deviation quotient, measuring 4 areas of intelligence: verbal, comprehension, perceptual reasoning, working memory, and processing speed. We are glossing over these. I'm not terribly concerned. I mean, you need to know these people, but we're not going to go into great depth here. We're just going to touch on it. Just so you know the names in case you see them again. We've got Gardner and Goleman. He has the theory of multiple intelligences. I like this one. You have 8 types of intelligence, right? Linguistic, logical, mathematical, spatial, musical, bodily, kinesthetic, interpersonal, intrapersonal, both inter and intra, very important for our field, and naturalistic. So you can go over those on page 62 in a little bit more detail if you'd like. And then we have Goleman. In addition to our, thinking intelligence, our cognitive intelligence, there's also emotional intelligence, right? Really important for us as well. That the ability to recognize and regulate emotions in ourselves and in others is a sign of intelligence. And that is our job. That's our job. We help people recognize and regulate. When you can't regulate your own emotions, you can't be well. You can't have self-efficacy. You can't have the self-actualization. Ooh, do y'all remember in another lecture I was trying to think of that word and I couldn't? That's what I was trying. Self-actualization. We can't achieve that as higher order thinking when we can't regulate emotion. We can't think when we're out of control emotionally. And so very, very important concept there just to understand what that is. Goleman's research also talked about in order to be successful in the workplace, you had to have emotional intelligence. Touche, Goleman. Touche. Okay, here we go. Moving over. Ugh, I thought we were moving to REBT. I was a lot happier if we were about to do that. No, we got to talk about Perry. He talked about intellectual development in the college years, right? And I do think there's a lot of transition there. I think most of you, this cohort that's going to listen to this, are younger cohort. And so you probably made a lot of changes since you began college to now, to your first year of graduate school. Oh my gosh, you guys are almost done 1 year of graduate school. In August. Think about how different you are. So this dualism modified is where you guys go from thinking, oh, professors have the facts and they have all the information, to realizing, no, like we have bias and we have opinion. Like, you may not agree with us on everything. We don't know everything. We cannot, by any stretch of the imagination, give you all the answers, nor do we all have the answers or know everything. That's why we have to prep for class, because you could never remember all of this stuff. We get better and better at it each time we teach it, but we still have make mistakes and have a view that's clouded. So part of this growth for you in this process in the masters is for you to become an individual and break off from the things that we think and say and see. So, at some point you may think, that trauma therapy Dr. Bill does is cray cray, and I don't want anything to do with that. I can't stand EMDR, I don't believe it works. That is fine. I'm proud of you. You do, you do you. I want you guys to figure out who you are. So, you may be like, ooh, CBT, I hate that. That's what Dr. Powers said. Marriage and family, not for me, Dr. Muller, right? So, or I don't agree with this. That is fine, but that is what happens. And for you to achieve, um, who you are as a therapist. So that's kind of a long example about that. As you progress, relativism is discovered. So you begin to value opinions that can be supported by facts. Most knowledge is contextual, the world's complex, and truth is not always available. Oh gosh, and that is the case for our field. Oh, same diagnosis never looks the same in the person. And finally, commitment in relativism is developed. The student learns that everyone, including oneself, commits to a set of chosen values and beliefs without knowing definitively if they are right or wrong. You have to do that throughout your entire life. I wasn't looking forward to Perry, but I like Perry. That was good. All right, and then we have Keegan. We have Robert Keegan here with the constructive developmental approach. This is constructive developmental psychology, the study of constructing meaning making, the evolution of meaning. Very important in our field. Meaning making. Also, if you did meaning making in a different way without, that would be da, 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 Frankel. I don't know if you remember that, but meaning making. Different, though. Very different with Keegan here. All right. Let's see. Keegan emphasized his developmental approach applied not just to individual development through childhood or traditional college years, but the entire lifespan. He broke the framework into several stages: incorporative, impulsive, imperial, interpersonal, institutional, and interindividual. He stressed that the stages are only a way of marking developments in a process, and it is the process that is fundamental to the framework. The process of restless, creative activity of personality, which is first of all about the making of meaning. His work has been applied to all areas of adult development, and I think we'll hear from him later on. So I want you to think about it. This is going to be our, I was thinking this might be our forum response. Yeah, I think I'm going to wait. I got another one I want to use, so I was thinking about. But look at 3.2. What career did you want to pursue as an adolescent? Was it a career that was important to your parents or teachers or highly regarded by the public? As you became more aware of your skills in the job market, did it change? So think about that. All right, let's keep going. I was going to tell you all a secret. I'm having, I wonder if y'all can hear me. I'm having a party for my husband's surprise party for my husband tonight. Social distancing style outside. So happy. I hope y'all can hear me. But anyway, in my next lecture, tomorrow, I can tell you how it went. See? Don't you feel like you're really here with me? Me telling you things like that? All right, I'm going to do. There's no telling by the end of the summer what I'll come up with to get y'all interested in these. Because look at this slide. It's so boring. I have to do something. All right. If you don't know this by now, we got a problem. Rational emotive therapy. You've had it in theory. We talked about it in foundation. You've had it. Let's see. What else have you? Oh, you had it in advanced techniques and group. This is the fifth time you're hearing about it. You should be able to do this standing on your head. Okay? Albert Ellis. Remember our little friend Albert Ellis, right? Albert did die in 2007, and he is a very important influencer. REBT is such a wonderful thing to use with our clients. Ellis believed that we all across the world have certain beliefs that negative beliefs that a lot of us have. I'm not good enough, I'm a failure, etc. And I would say that that's true because when I do EMDR, which is heavily based in CBT as well, it's a huge CBT component. There's a list of negative beliefs I go off of, and it's ironic to think about how many people share those beliefs. I'm not good enough. I'm a failure. I'm worthless. I have no control. I'm not safe. Those are, the big ones. I'm trapped. Those are the ones I get a lot. So when we have those belief systems, they're dysfunctional a lot of times. They're not, those are dysfunctional belief systems. Then we tend to think in more negative ways. And then, so we think about things more negatively. We're triggered more frequently. Then we have more negative emotional issues and more maladaptive behavior. So the ABC model is when the activating event, the A, has a person draw from their past beliefs to form a new belief about the potential and actual consequences. C. If the belief is irrational, the client can then dispute D and then reevaluate E, the results. Okay, we already know that. Then we have Beck. Remember? Cognitive therapy. So Aaron Beck, who's still alive as of this lecture, I believe, thought infants were born with the ability to process information, and with that, we basically continue to process information through our lifespan. The information processing begins when we're babies, very primitively, with the touch and the taste and the sound, and then obviously develops over time into something a lot more complex with cognitions and schemas. Beck explains the developing cognitive functioning of the mind in terms of schemas. So if you see the word schema, you'll know that it's connected to this. Schema, the definition of schema is described as the framework or building blocks of the mind, and basically have 5 systems: the cognitive, which is information processing; the affective, which is emotional. So when you hear affect intolerance, you hear the word affect, that's emotion, and that's a very common term in our field. Behavioral, which is just what it says; motivational; and physiological in the body. A mode is the integration of those systems and the many schemas that make up each system that is being integrated and activates a person's response to environment. Professional counselors continue to study and explore all of Beck's research, and his daughter Judith Beck, who wrote your book for advanced techniques. He has the Beck Institute, so lots of good resources there. There's an excellent case example of Judy here on 3.1 I would suggest reading. And then remember reality? We got choice theory, William Glasser. Let's move into him. Based on choice theory, that all humans are born with 5 basic needs that they continually try to fulfill: survival, love and belonging, power, fun, learning, and freedom. And I think there's truth in all of these, quite frankly, as a practicing therapist. Glasser writes about thinking, which is cognition. He often includes what he calls the quality world picture album. Here comes my child. Do you want to say anything on my lecture that I'm recording? Can you say hi? Anything? Bueller? I want to watch TV. You want to watch TV right now while I'm recording this? Uh-huh. This is... Wait, I didn't understand that. She's way past 7 and what? Okay. you can't watch, she's watching a Y7 show and you are not 7. So you came in here to the living room where mommy's recording lunch. Okay, I'm going to pause here, everyone, because I've either got to move or take care of my child. So pause for a second. I'm back. Know the Quality World is our picture album we hold within our minds with made up or remembered pictures that equal fulfillment. As our environments change, pictures can be removed or replaced with newer and more satisfying pictures. Then we move to moral development. John Locke, we talked about this in chapter 1. I believe that morals were learned by the teaching observation of others along with personal experiences. Early in development theory came the tabula rasa, the blank slate, that our mind is a blank slate, void of knowledge or understanding. Then we have Rousseau, who believed people were born innately good with a primitive sense of morality that's corrupted by society. So that's a different view. Proper morality occurs through formalized education. Remember, we went through the history, and formalized education didn't come along until later. That wasn't always, formalized education for children was not always something that was common at all. And then we have, moving through into psychoanalytic, social learning, and behavioral perspectives. Oh, there we go. Okay. My child's still in here, but we're going to see how far I can get because I'd really like to finish this. Now you see why I stop and start so much because I'm home with my family, etc. So we've got psychoanalytic, which is moral development occurs as the child struggles to balance instincts and expectations of external authority. The superego remembers the morality, and the id is the instinct, and the regulations, the ego, helping the child to avoid punishment or navigate both of those systems. The social learning perspective is that a child develops morals by learning what is and is not accepted by society. It comes from environment, family, teachers, authority figures, etc. And the behavioral perspective is that moral development occurs in a controlled environment and conditions, right, influence or reinforce or punish behavior. And we said we were going to talk about Piaget again, and here we are in his stages of moral development. So we, oh, I got to pause again. That's the end of that milk. It's a good thing. We have another milk. My child's addicted to milk. So this is not a bad thing. Okay, all right. Children have no morality. Wow. Children are not concerned with rules. They have little sense of morality when they're birth to 4. Egocentric. Mine's 5, but I think he might still be in pre-moral. Heteronomous morality is 5 to 8. They're starting to have some rules from authorities without question to avoid punishment. A period of cooperation emerges. I'm still waiting on that to happen for my little boy. Autonomous morality. All right, and this is from 8 to 12 years old. Children are starting to learn that rules are set by society, including their peers, in a cooperative fashion. Codification of rules period occurs. They learn common set of rules of the game of marbles. Justice is delivered fairly, and fairness can be adjusted based on the intent of the violator and general agreement of society. Oh, we're about to get to Kohlberg's theory of moral development. Oh my gosh, this is coming under so much fire. Kohlberg's theory of moral development. In fact, I was at one of the treatment programs that I did, which is called moral recognition therapy. And recognition is not even a word if you try to look it up. We did RECONATION. It's not really a word. Moral recognition therapy. Somebody in this company somewhere came up with this based on theories, Kohlberg's theory of moral development, and we used it in drug court. And I didn't like it at all. Mama, okay, okay. And to be fair, it's a hierarchical structure for the theory of moral development, not this moral development. An early developmental stage, it was in adulthood. So let's talk about level 1. So this is pre-conventional level. Children, this is stage 1. punishment and obedience orientation. Children obey the rules to avoid punishment, and they obey those in power simply because they're in power. The morality behind the rules and those enforcing them is not important or even considered. In stage two, children obey the rules, but only for self-satisfaction. Reciprocity, which is a matter of use, and this is that stage of development right here. So I guess it is based on this, but it just looks different. So in reciprocity, I scratch your back, you scratch mine. Basically, people continue to operate at that stage of development the rest of their life, or completely at punishment, obedience orientation. And then you have to try to raise their level of morality. You can see where this is going and why it's controversial, I'm sure. Okay. And then you've got the conventional level where this is where like law is law. So stage three, good boy, nice girl orientation. Children or teens seek the approval of society and start to appreciate good intentions. A sense of caring for humanity emerges, and actions motivated by empathy and caring rather than individual greed. Um, this is classified by the stage that husband is stealing a drug to save a life. Law is love. We value good behavior for the sake of social order. Basically, appreciating that law is law, following and conforming. Post-conventional autonomous or principled level is level 3, and it's called all three different names. Social contract legalistic orientation. The law is in place, but you go above that. This is kind of that above the law, going about like recycling, right? So eventually at the top, it's like your Mother Teresa, if that helps. But highly controversial for some. For some. Oh, and look. While Kohlberg's theory is well known, it has not gone unchallenged. Aha. Carol Gilligan, using Kohlberg's own moral dilemmas in her research, argued that the autonomous thinking that comes along with Kohlberg's post-conventional level is encouraged more in boys, and even discouraged in girls. That is not to say that girls do not reach the same level of moral development as boys, but they might display their development in a different way. And Gilligan and Antonucci refer to this different way as care perspective, having concern for those in need and being mindful of relationships as opposed to justice perspective. In the famous Kohlberg dilemma that deals with stealing an unaffordable drug to save a dying wife, some girls might suggest pleading to the druggist for a discount or a payment plan, or reaching out to friends and family for a loan. Boys, on the other hand, are inclined to do what they see as just and make the case for stealing the drug to save an irreplaceable life. Still, the morality of caring is not reserved for girls alone. We see the care perspective in boys as well, etc. All right, now comes your prompt, your forum prompt, okay? Oh, there it is. There's hierarchy of needs. Remember I was talking about that earlier. Okay, I do think the hierarchy of needs is important. So let out your forum response for chapter 3, so that I know that you've watched this video. Also, maybe put a few things in there about things I said that are not in the book. So it can be funny stuff I said or whatever. So what would your response be to the following Kohlberg dilemma and why? There was a woman who had a very bad cancer, and there was no treatment known to medicine that would save her. Her doctor, Dr. Jefferson, knew that she had only about 6 months to live. She was in terrible pain.